What's up, guys? You'll notice there's no intro this week. Kind of pressed for time. This week things have been crazy, and this is kind of an impromptu video. Uh, there's been some discussions that I've seen coming up maybe the last week or so, and I really wanted to make a video on it today. So the topic is, do we tell people about our preps? The video title will be something to that effect. Now, I've been seeing that question posed on some level, uh, different ways, right? And the question always stems from, do I tell people? Who do I tell? How much do I tell? To that, something to that effect. And the standard response, and it's always a good place to start from, is looking at OPSEC, operational security, and the idea being it's better not to tell people versus to tell people. When things go sideways, you would rather people not knowing that you have stuff and they don't. And then thinking to that effect. That makes sense, and generally speaking, it's not a bad idea, I think. But here's another here's another angle to look at, okay? Because I think some people are getting carried away with that. And the other angle is, let's look at the situation we are in now with rising inflation, with shortages, um, with a decent potential for all that to get worse. And you look at history, and you look in the 20th century with other nations that have gone through or caused similar issues, generally through a totalitarian government, Soviet Union, Germany. You can even look at modern day with Venezuela, stuff like that. When there are shortages, and you have a totalitarian government, which our government is moving in that direction, um, the government will use um, people as informants. They will get people to turn each other in, so to speak. I believe the estimate during the height of the Soviet Union was uh, uh, I think at the height of the Soviet Union, a third of all the people were informants. Okay, so you get a family of six, two of them are informants, and so you see this in Germany, and you see this really in any situation where there is a food shortage or economic difficulty, extreme economic difficulties. And the government comes along and just think about where we're at now, whether they say, um, well, we'll give you a month's worth of food if you turn in your neighbor. You turn in your neighbor for being a religious extremist, or maybe um, they have illegal guns. We ban certain guns, and these guys aren't giving them up. So if you turn in your neighbor, you'll get ration cards, or you'll get maybe you'll get priority access to electricity, um, or you'll get months worth of food and whatnot. So think about your neighbors, specific, especially if you live in rural areas. Most of us will still have one or two neighbors. Um, think about them. Think about the families they have. So if you have a neighbor with small children, and between inflation and between food shortages, they can't feed their family, are they really gonna sit there and let their kids starve to death? Probably not. Okay. And I know people like you and me, we say, well, hey, we're seeing this trend ahead of time, and we are also not going to allow our families to starve to death, which is why we're taking steps to repair. But you got to remember, most people are not like that. And so think about the people you know, and your neighbors specifically. So, yeah, in certain scenarios, it might be good if no one knows you have anything, but reality is if we're looking at a slower, steady decline, with shortages and the government coercing people to turn each other in, your neighbors will probably figure out you have something. Whether you're growing stuff, that'll be easy enough to see, um, or what have you. And so, but you think about it from this other angle. So instead of thinking about your neighbors as potential enemy, potential threat, if you can build those relationships beforehand, you build a good relationship with your neighbor. Um, and it doesn't always have to be a two-way relationship. It might be all you just giving, giving, giving. That's fine. Okay, you're winning hearts and minds. Think about how the Green Berets and what they do when they go behind enemy lines and they work with indigenous population, and they're winning hearts and minds. Okay, they're doing stuff for the people they're with. Again, they're winning that loyalty. So for one, you have that. Whether that's given, you bake brownies, you bake cookies, you give some to your neighbors, you go talk to them, tell them about what your kids are doing, or you ask them about their kids, whatever. Sharing harvests with them, or hey, I grew too many tomatoes. Here's some tomatoes. Um, The other thing though is depending on how you develop that relationship and how things potentially could progress, keep in the back of your mind. For one strategy for me is I'm going to grow food specifically with the idea that they can steal them. Right, so I'm going to grow food on the edge of my property specifically for the purpose that they can take it if they need to help alleviate that burden off me. But the other thing too is depending on how well you built that relationship and depending on how things turn out, for me, one of my plans is I'm going to go reach out to my neighbors if things got bad and help them uh, grow their own food and help them become sufficient. The best case scenario is if I can do all that beforehand and we're all both growing stuff and we're interdependent. That's the key thing. Make all your families interdependent. Okay, so think about this scenario where there's food shortages and people are starving. The government's trying to coerce, neighbors are turning each other in, but your neighbor's survival also relies on you. You built this relationship to where they're helping you, you're helping them, and their ability to feed their children relies on you, relies on their relationship with you, relies on what you're growing and whatnot. Um, yeah, if you build that kind of relationship, what's the chance they're going to turn you in? Pretty close to zero, right? Not only do they have a good relationship, not only do they like you, but from a survival aspect, the government trying to coerce people into turning themselves in because, hey, we'll give you a month's worth of food. That's got no effect if they're able to feed their family, and it's because of you. If they take you away, now they take that ability away. And so, building these relationships of interdependency like that, um, I think it's another way to look at the problem. I think people are getting a little overboard with the don't tell anybody. Reality is in that kind of situation, that'll be your biggest threat. Will be neighbors turning you in, right? And how do you mitigate that? Well, you got to do that beforehand, and just trying to hide in your shell may not be the best thing. So think about it. Everyone's situation is different. Think about where you're at. Think about the small things you can do, and just try to change your mindset a little bit. Look for opportunities. Um, yeah, so that's really all I got. I'm trying to figure out how to cut this short, but like I said, impromptu video, so editing and whatnot, not really there today. But hey, I'll see y'all next week. Stay safe, stay prepared.